Ben is with us in Huntsville. Hey, Ben, welcome to the EntreLeadership Podcast.
Hey, Dave. Glad to be with you, sir.
You too. What's up?
So I run a research firm, have 2 team members, about $700K in revenue last year. And I'm talking with a company in the space, a gentleman I've known for a couple of years, that's similar size to ours and kind of complementary to what we do. And he's thinking about selling his business. And I've heard you talk through this story lots of times with people, but the unique wrinkle is he wants to stick around after that as an individual contributor, and I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Why does he want to sell?
He is an amazing salesperson, got into the E-Myth trap where he does not like running the business.
Okay. All right. Well, I think the series of conversations that you're going to have over the time that he's with you, if he stays, is going to be talking a lot about how difficult it is for a normal human to have been the boss and then not be the boss. It's just
That's
hard.
a difficult transition to make, yes.
It's just hard. I mean, you're used to barking and people jump. You're used to your ideas matter more than they do later. You're used to, there's a certain kind of weird humility, not humiliation, but humility that would be required. It can be done. It can be done. I've got an operating board member that ran his own deal for years and came in here and is an excellent team member and works as not only a great leader, but also a great team member with other leaders. And so he's really good with people. And so he's been able to make that transition, but he was self-employed, ran a good-sized business for a lot of years. And, he sold it and came to work here. And he made that transition. But, let's just say out loud that we talked about that a lot. And we didn't stop talking about it the day he started. And that's going to be with you. So you say, okay, look, going to be some awkward conversations and some awkward feelings. And if we don't have those, you and I, then we're probably weird. It would be normal to have some awkwardness. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And if we can just keep talking about the awkwardness, it makes it go away.
The benefit, I think, in this is that he bought someone else out about 2 years ago. So he hasn't been the boss for the entire duration. So that's, I think, a good thing here.
And he doesn't want to be the boss anymore, but he has had that part of his wiring done. So you're going to just know that it's real. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible to do it. I just gave you an example where we did do it. But I think you just say out loud, in a normal situation, if someone had been running a business for 25 years and they sell it, they might stay on a year to make sure that the key team members stick and that the key accounts, the customers stick, right? And then they'll get a good handoff and then out the door, inside of 12 months. That's a typical scenario where the former owner stays on long enough to make that happen. But in your case, you're trying to turn him into a top flight sales guy again, right?
Yeah, he is so aching to be back in that role. And every time I talk to him, that's the thing that comes through every conversation. And that excites me because that's not my area of expertise. But
I would try it. I'm not telling you don't do it. I'm just telling you that human nature is there's going to be a few moments here or there where there's a bit of an eye roll by one of you. And we've just got to be able to go, hey, this is a little bit weird right now. Let's just pull aside, have a cup of coffee, breathe a second, and, okay, that's good. Now we're back on. Okay. And you just got to, you're going to have to leave the emotional margin and set the table as such to be able to have a couple of resets as you go along.
The first part I'm planning on talking about is the comp piece because he's going to leave I get to pay myself a salary now, and I'm going to be sales, so it's going to be commission driven after that. So that's going to be part of the initial part mechanically. But yeah. I think it's a good point to say, oh, by the way, there's lots of other things that are not written down that are going to be part of this that we need to talk through.
Yeah. And if you're feeling awkward, part of our bargain part of our agreement is you're going to come into my office and we're going to sit down and talk about it. If I'm feeling or sensing some awkwardness, I'm not going to brush it under the rug and go, oh, well, it'll work out, because it won't work out. You got to sit down and talk about it. Because the weird thing about these things are these little miniature conflicts is they avoid huge conflicts later. You can do minor course corrections, right? Like a 2% course correction avoids the dadgum ship from sinking later, right? Because we don't hit the reef. And so we're just going to, I believe in lots of that stuff. That's why I hate the idea of an annual review with a typical team member. Once a year, we sit down and talk. Well, no, crap, we're going to talk all the time. Where the annual review, we'll do an annual review, but it's irrelevant because you already know everything I'm thinking, because I'm not waiting a year to tell you. Oh, my gosh. So that's where corporate America screws up. I'm scared about my annual review. Well, you don't ever need to be scared about your annual review at Ramsey, because we've already told you what's going on before you come in there. Many times, so same thing here. Course correct. And, and you could set the comp thing up where he's salary and progressively, it takes a year or 6 months or something to fade over into commission. And so his finances don't get some kind of culture shock or something. You can set that up. But I'm just saying the guys are used to reporting to him. They're not reporting to him anymore. And they can't anymore. They're not allowed to. So they can't have like a second meeting with their old boss after you've just had a meeting with them. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
That's the kind of crap leaving that guy in there can occur. And it's human nature, because they're comfortable with him. They trust him, and you're the new guy. And so they don't like something they heard. They may not come to you. They may go to him, and he's going to have to deflect and go, no, you're going to Ben's office. Mm-hmm. And you and I will talk to Ben about it. Ben will talk to you about it. He's not mad. Let's talk about it. Let's all go in there and talk together. I mean, and he's got to have your back in that sense. Otherwise, he becomes a distraction, and you'll have a really great salesperson who's causing division inside the company. And it was unintentional, but it's just human nature for people to stick with people they already know and trust and that kind of thing. So just set the table. By that, I mean, okay, here's going to be our comp plan, and here's going to be our agreement. Every time you feel awkwardness, you're going to talk to me. I'm going to talk to you if I feel it. And I mean, within a few minutes, if we can get to each other. The second thing is, if somebody comes to you and they are uncomfortable, it's no longer your job to mentor them or to hear them out. You can take them by the hand and walk in my office, and the three of us will solve it together, and then we'll all be friends and trust each other going forward. You got to have my back, and you got to deflect their stuff to me rather than accidentally causing division. If we get those three things going, comp, constant flow of communication, you probably can make this turn with this guy, because he doesn't want the job. He hasn't been doing the job very long, both to your point. That's your points, and they're excellent points. And, this will work. But it would be very difficult to hire someone who used to run half the place to come in and run none of the place. And it's just a hard thing for humans to get their head around. It'd be hard for the team to see that and understand and compute that. It's like, it can be done, though. It can be done. But the only way is with lots of intentionality and discussion. Don't just plug and play and hope it all works out. If you're very proactive, in other words, that's where I think you'll make the turn with it. So very, very good question. Very cool. Proud of you, man. Sounds like a fun deal you're doing. Getting ready to double the size of your firm, get some talent on board, get things moving in the right direction. Man, it's excellent, excellent stuff. Proud of you. Good work.